There comes a time in every soul's journey when the hardest battles are not fought in the open fields of the world, but in the quiet corners of our own homes and circles. It is not the stranger that wounds the deepest. It is the familiar voice, the trusted face, the hand once held in love. We live in a world where evil no longer wears horns or hides in the shadows. It walks beside us, smiles at our success, claps at our victories, and yet secretly works to destroy the very peace we pray for. This message today is not one of fear, but of awakening. We are not called to judge, but to discern. The same Spirit that gives peace also gives clarity. You may have wondered why certain relationships constantly drain your energy, why some conversations leave you heavy instead of uplifted, why no matter how much you pour into someone, they always seem to leave you feeling empty. These are not accidents. These are not just difficult personalities. Sometimes these are spiritual assignments meant to derail your purpose and distort your calling. But here is the truth. Light exposes darkness. And when you are walking with the truth, you don't need to be afraid of deception. You only need to recognize it. Today we will walk through the signs, the patterns, and the spiritual signals that reveal when something dark is working through someone close to you. Not so you may hate them, but so you may guard your heart, protect your calling, and stay rooted in the purpose God has given you. For the battle is real, but so is the victory. And once your eyes are open, you can no longer be manipulated by what once held you back. There is a kind of danger more subtle than the roar of the lion or the strike of the serpent. It does not come wrapped in darkness, nor does it announce itself with fury. Instead, it enters with a smile. It greets with warmth. It laughs when you laugh. It stands close, not because it loves you, but because it seeks access. And in the course of a life lived in the pursuit of truth, you will discover this heartbreaking reality. Not every smiling face means well. Not every friend is for you. Not every family member carries your best interest in their heart. You see, deception does not always come in the form of strangers. The most dangerous form of evil can sometimes come disguised in affection, in familiarity, in loyalty that is not real. That's why we must awaken to a deeper level of discernment, not rooted in suspicion, but in wisdom. There is a difference between judging a person and discerning a spirit. And when we are walking closely with the Spirit of truth, He gives us eyes to see what the natural eye often misses. Some people enter your life not to build you, but to block you. Their words sound kind, but their intentions are selfish. Their gestures look generous, but their motives are impure. These are the ones who smile when you succeed, but secretly rejoice when you fail. They clap for you in public, but in private they whisper doubt and discouragement. And when your heart is unguarded, when your identity is not anchored in divine truth, you may begin to believe their lies. You may begin to question your calling, your worth, your future, because someone close to you projected their own insecurities onto your life. But the good news is this: you are not alone. The Spirit of the living God gives clarity. He gives you peace that exposes confusion and light that reveals hidden darkness. You may not be able to explain it in words, but you will feel it in your soul when something isn't right. That uneasy feeling in your spirit is not paranoia, it is protection. That sudden shift in peace when someone enters the room is not emotional, it is spiritual. You must begin to trust what God reveals to you. When someone speaks well of you but consistently belittles your dreams, that's a warning. When someone calls you family but always undermines your growth, that's a sign. When someone acts like a friend but feeds your fears and starves your faith, that's deception. And you were never created to be manipulated by a smiling enemy. Jesus Himself experienced this. Betrayal didn't come from His opponents. It came from one who dined with Him, walked with Him, shared moments of closeness. The kiss of Judas was not a symbol of love. It was the ultimate deception. And yet, that moment serves as a timeless reminder that betrayal often comes dressed in the garments of intimacy. But betrayal never has the final word. God does. When you begin to walk in this understanding, you stop begging for love from those who are not assigned to your destiny. You stop over-explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop giving your peace to those who thrive on your insecurity. You learn to smile without bitterness, to walk away without guilt, to pray for those who hurt you without inviting them back into the places they once damaged. Recognizing hidden intentions is not about hatred. It's about healing. It's not about building walls. It's about building wisdom. You begin to surround yourself with people who water your soul, not those who wither your hope. You begin to choose relationships that reflect God's heart, not relationships that mirror the pain of your past. There will be seasons where God separates you, not because people are evil, but because their season in your life has expired. And if you hold on to them longer than you should, you may delay the very thing God wants to bring into your life. Sometimes the only way to elevate is to release. And sometimes the release must begin with the one who once smiled the widest. But do not fear. When you let go of deceptive smiles, God replaces them with divine connections. He will send people into your life who sharpen your faith, who speak truth even when it's hard, who celebrate your growth without jealousy, who carry your burdens without asking for credit. These are the faces of God's grace. These are the smiles that heal. And so, if you find yourself surrounded by familiar faces but unfamiliar peace, ask for discernment. If your heart is heavy in certain relationships, ask for guidance. If you feel drained, used, or confused, don't just analyze behavior. Seek spiritual clarity. Because behind every deceptive smile is a spirit that must bow before the authority of truth. You were not made to walk in blindness. You were not made to be surrounded by those who secretly root against you. You were made to shine, to thrive, to grow in love that is pure and powerful. And as you step into that light, you will no longer fear deception. You will recognize it, rise above it, and walk with those who are truly for you. So let your heart be guarded not by suspicion, but by truth. Let your soul be protected not by fear, but by faith. And let every step you take be covered in the wisdom of the one who sees all, knows all, and reveals all in his perfect time. Because once your eyes are open, the smile of the deceiver loses its power, and the peace of the righteous becomes your portion forever. There are moments in life when love, once warm and life-giving, begins to change. What once uplifted now weighs you down. What once brought you joy now causes confusion and unrest in your soul. You give and give and give, yet find yourself emptier than before. You pray for peace, but all you feel is pressure. You speak truth, but it's twisted against you. And somewhere in that quiet place within, you begin to ask the hardest question of all: how can something that looks like love hurt this much? This is where discernment must rise. For not all who claim to love you carry love's true spirit. Not all who say the right things have the right motives. You may be entangled in relationships, friendships, family bonds, even romantic ties that began with sincerity but slowly turned into spiritual traps. And this is not a message of condemnation. It is a call to awakening. Because sometimes the most dangerous attack on your purpose comes not from enemies at a distance, but from hearts that dwell too close. When love turns toxic, it doesn't always start with cruelty. It often begins with control. At first, it looks like concern. They care about you, they check on you, they want to be involved in every decision. But over time, that care becomes criticism. That involvement becomes intrusion. That interest becomes dominance. Your voice gets quieter, your dreams shrink smaller, and your confidence starts to fade. Not because you stop believing in yourself, but because someone else slowly convinced you that you weren't enough on your own. And yet, you stay. You make excuses. You call it loyalty. You remind yourself that no one's perfect. But deep down, your spirit feels it. The constant tension, the walking on eggshells, the fear of setting boundaries because of how they might react. You feel guilted into silence, pressured into peacekeeping, forced into a version of yourself that no longer looks like joy, no longer feels like freedom. But love, real love, does not suffocate. It does not manipulate. It does not belittle or betray or boast at your expense. Real love builds. It corrects, yes, but it never crushes. It stretches you, but it never strangles you. And when you find yourself in a relationship where you are losing more of your identity than you are growing in your purpose, it is time to step back, not in hate, but in holy clarity. The danger of toxic love is that it often disguises itself in good intentions. They say they only want the best for you. They say they're protecting you from failure. But what they are truly protecting is their control over your life. They fear your growth because it exposes their own stagnation. They mock your faith because it threatens their comfort. And they resent your healing because your freedom reminds them of their own brokenness. And here's the truth. The enemy loves to hide in these places. He doesn't always come through the door of destruction. Sometimes he walks in on the carpet of companionship. And if you're not spiritually alert, you will allow people to speak into your life who were never meant to guide your soul. You'll let their fears become your limits. Their insecurities become your burdens. Their words become louder than God's promises over you. But you were never created to carry that weight. You are not formed in love only to live in fear. You are not called into relationship only to be chained by it. That's why discernment is a gift you must ask for and cultivate. It allows you to see beneath the surface. It helps you recognize when the relationship that once brought you closer to purpose now leads you away from peace. Discernment does not mean you abandon people at the first sign of struggle. It means you ask, is this relationship helping me become who God called me to be, or is it hindering me from becoming it? Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is say no. Sometimes the most powerful prayer is not for someone else to change, but for God to give you the courage to walk away. This is not bitterness, it is bravery, it is not hatred, it is healing. Because when you allow toxic relationships to remain, you invite confusion to stay, anxiety to grow, and your calling to dim. God never meant for you to live under that cloud. He created you to thrive, to grow, to love and be loved in truth and in wholeness. There is no glory in staying bound to what is slowly breaking your spirit. And there is no shame in setting boundaries, even with those who once meant the most to you. It is not dishonoring to protect your peace. It is not rebellion to guard your heart. It is wisdom. It is obedience to the still small voice inside you saying, you were made for more than this. You don't need to explain your clarity to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. You don't have to convince someone of your worth when God already declared it. You don't need to tolerate manipulation in the name of love. Because love that wounds repeatedly without repentance is not love. It is control wearing a holy mask. And once you begin to recognize this, you will see how many of your spiritual battles weren't against strangers, but against the spirits working through those too close to challenge. But take heart. God is not only your healer, He is your revealer. He will open your eyes. He will unmask intentions. He will show you who is truly for you and who was sent to distract you. When that revelation comes, it may hurt. You may grieve. But in that grief, there is grace. Grace to let go. Grace to heal. Grace to grow stronger and wiser than before. And once you have walked through that fire, you'll look back and see that what tried to destroy your spirit only purified your discernment. You will begin to love yourself enough to walk away from what no longer honors God in your life. You will stop begging to be seen because you already know you are chosen. You will begin to attract the right people, those who love purely, give freely, and walk beside you not out of need, but out of alignment with purpose. And as your spirit grows lighter, your vision will grow clearer. You will no longer fear the loss of toxic love because you will have tasted the joy of true freedom. And that freedom, rooted in truth, fueled by grace, and protected by discernment, will become the foundation of every relationship you build moving forward. Because love, real love, will never drain your spirit. It will refresh it. It will not blur your identity. It will affirm it. And when you walk in that love, you will walk in the fullness of who you were always meant to be. There's a great danger that does not roar or shout, but whispers. It doesn't knock on your door with threats. It walks right in because it already knows your name. It eats at your table. It nods when you speak. It cheers you on in public, but questions your worth in private. This is not the enemy you were warned about in the dark corners of the world. This is the one sitting inside the circle, the one whose face is familiar, whose touch feels safe. And yet behind the smile is a shadow, behind the kindness a quiet corruption. This is how darkness moves. It wears a friendly mask. The truth is, not every enemy stands across from you. Some stand beside you. And when you don't have spiritual discernment, you will confuse proximity with loyalty. You will confuse charm with character. You will believe that everyone who claps for you is for you. But some claps are the countdown to sabotage. Some smiles are silent threats. And if you are not careful, if you are not rooted in truth, you may invite deception right into the center of your life, thinking it's love, thinking it's friendship, thinking it's safe. This is not a message to stir suspicion. This is a message to stir awakening. The enemy has never needed to come through the back door if he can be welcomed through the front by someone already close. From the very beginning of time, we've seen this pattern. Betrayal does not come from the hands of a stranger. It comes from the heart that knew yours. It comes from the voice that once said, I'm with you. And that's why it cuts so deep. That's why it hurts so much. Because it wasn't supposed to be them. But you are not alone in this realization. Even the greatest walked this road, surrounded by 12, and still one of them carried a different agenda. He walked with the Word made flesh. He saw miracles with his own eyes, and yet darkness had already taken root in his heart. You see, being near the light does not guarantee transformation. Some stand in the light just to study how to dim it. And when your purpose begins to rise, when your calling becomes clear, that's when the enemy sends counterfeits. Not to kill you outright, but to confuse you, to delay you, to distract you until you forget who you are. It is time to wake up. Time to see with spiritual eyes. Time to recognize that not every connection is a blessing. Some are burdens wearing the costume of companionship. And if you are more loyal to the image of the relationship than the truth of what it's doing to you, you will stay in the presence of danger thinking it's devotion. You know what it feels like. You leave the conversation feeling less. You share your dreams and they offer doubt. You ask for support and they give silence. But when others fail, they celebrate. When you are struggling, they suddenly feel strong. This is not love. This is not alignment. This is an assignment against your spirit, dressed up as friendship. But here's the good news. God will never leave you blind. He will pull back the curtain. He will expose the motives. He will bring truth to the surface in time. And when He does, don't ignore the signs. Don't explain away the patterns. Don't spiritualize toxicity just because it feels familiar. Familiarity is not the same as faithfulness. And when God begins to show you the enemy within your circle, it's not to destroy the other person. It's to protect your calling. It's to purify your environment. Because you cannot soar when your wings are tangled in the chains of false loyalty. You cannot build when the foundation is corrupted by those who secretly hope you fail. Sometimes the most dangerous storm in your life is not what's happening around you. It's the one happening through a person close to you. And sometimes, in His mercy, God doesn't just speak peace to the storm. He removes the storm entirely. That's why certain people walk away when you begin to rise. That's why certain friendships fall apart when you step into obedience. It's not punishment. It's preservation. He is removing what would have wrecked you later. You don't need to fight every battle. You just need to recognize who is standing in the room. When you begin to walk in purpose, you don't beg for loyalty. You discern alignment. You don't chase validation. You stand in identity. And you begin to understand that fewer friends with true hearts are better than a crowd filled with hidden knives. Let your heart be anchored in truth. Let your spirit be led by discernment. And let your relationships be filtered through prayer. Ask God, who sent them? What do they carry? What is their fruit? Because a good mask may hide intentions for a season, but time, testing, and truth will always reveal what's underneath. When the mask falls, you may feel pain, you may feel grief, but don't let it make you bitter. Let it make you wise. Don't let it steal your trust in everyone. Let it strengthen your trust in God. Because for every fake friend that leaves, He sends a faithful one in their place. For every voice that tried to manipulate, He will send one that speaks life. And for every presence that brought confusion, He will bring a presence that carries peace. You are not meant to walk blindly. You are not meant to be surrounded by those who secretly tear you down. You are meant to rise, to shine, to walk with those who water your soul. So don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Don't be afraid to step away from what is slowly draining your joy. Don't be afraid to expose what God is trying to remove. The mask may have fooled you for a season, but now your eyes are open. You know the truth. And when you know the truth will set you free, not just from sin, but from sabotage. Not just from the world, but from the wrong relationships within your circle. So walk boldly, walk wisely, and walk with your eyes open, because the enemy may have entered the circle once, but he will not stay when the light of truth shines. And as you move forward, surrounded not by flattery, but by faith, not by manipulation, but by mercy, you will find that the circle may be smaller, but the peace will be greater. And in that peace you will flourish, you will grow. You will fulfill everything you were born to be. There comes a time in every believer's life when you must take a stand, not with clenched fists, but with a quiet soul. Not to fight others, but to protect what God has placed inside of you. That thing is peace. And it is one of the most precious gifts heaven gives. Peace is not the absence of trouble. It's the presence of God in the midst of it. And when you begin to walk with the Lord, you will find that peace is not just something to receive, it is something to protect. Now, not every storm in your life is caused by the devil. Some are caused by people who carry the wrong spirit. They speak the language of love, but their words stir confusion. They smile, but their presence is heavy. You feel tired after being with them. You lose focus. You begin to second-guess your calling, your purpose, your identity. That is not coincidence. That is warfare in disguise. You see, spiritual danger does not always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like a good friend with wrong motives. Sometimes it looks like a family member who uses love as control. Sometimes it shows up as charm, kindness, and good advice, but underneath is a spirit not sent to build you, but to block you. These are the relationships that rob you of peace little by little, conversation by conversation, encounter by encounter. And if you are not careful, you'll confuse passivity with patience. You'll call fear humility. You'll stay silent thinking you're being spiritual when what you're really being is spiritually compromised. God did not give you peace for it to be stolen by emotional manipulation or false loyalty. He gave it so you could live in the center of His will, unhindered, undistracted, and unafraid. That's why boundaries are not unloving, they are holy. Boundaries are not rebellion, they are responsibility. And until you learn how to draw them, you will live under the influence of people God never sent and tolerate spirits He's trying to deliver you from. There are people who drain you not because they are stronger than you, but because you never drew a line. You never said, no more. You never said, this is not how God treats His children, and I will not allow it in my life. And so the cycle continued. But God is calling you to a new level of clarity, a new level of discernment, a new level of courage to protect what He's given you. Think of your peace as a garden. What would happen if you let anyone walk through it, trample on it, take from it? Eventually, nothing beautiful would grow. Weeds would overtake the flowers. Chaos would kill the order. That's what happens when you leave your spirit unguarded. That's what happens when you entertain conversations that wound. When you allow manipulation to masquerade as compassion, when you say yes to every invitation at the cost of your soul. Even Jesus, the Prince of Peace, walked away from some crowds. He retreated to the mountains to pray. He spent time with the Father to replenish what people tried to drain. He did not entrust Himself to every person, for He knew what was in their hearts. He walked in love, but He also walked in wisdom. And if He needed boundaries to protect His mission, how much more do you? There will be people in your life who cannot go where God is taking you, not because they're evil, but because they're not aligned. They speak the name of God, but their lives breed strife. They say the right things, but their fruit is bitterness, jealousy, control. You don't need to judge them. You don't need to fight them. You simply need to step back. Distance is not hate. Silence is not weakness. Letting go is not failure. Sometimes it is obedience. And when you begin to obey the voice of peace instead of the noise of people, you will begin to see clearly who is really walking with you and who is merely watching you. Now hear this. Protecting your peace may cost you comfort. It may cost you approval. It may even cost you certain relationships. But what you gain is worth far more. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain time and space to pursue what truly matters, to become the person God called you to be, without distraction or spiritual distortion. And here's the beautiful part. When you set boundaries with spiritually dangerous people, you make room for divine connections. You make room for relationships that heal, for conversations that stir faith, for voices that remind you of God's truth, not of your past shame. You begin to attract what you reflect, peace, purpose, and purity of spirit. Don't be afraid to say no to what drains you. Don't be afraid to walk away from what confuses you. Don't be afraid to protect what God placed in you, because your peace is not just for you, it's for your assignment. You can't pour into others if you're constantly being emptied by the wrong people. You can't walk in boldness if you're always recovering from emotional damage. And you can't hear God clearly if every voice around you is louder than His. This is your season to protect the garden, to silence the noise, to step into spaces where your spirit breathes again. You are not called to be everyone's Savior. You are not called to carry every burden. You are called to be led by the Spirit, anchored in truth and clothed in peace. So start today. Ask God to show you who belongs in your circle and who needs to be loved from a distance. Ask Him to give you the courage to draw the lines, the wisdom to maintain them, and the grace to walk in love without surrendering your soul. Because once you protect your peace, you begin to live with power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stands firm. The kind that wakes up each morning with clarity. The kind that says, I belong to God and I will not be shaken by anything less. And that kind of life, that kind of peace, it cannot be stolen, it cannot be faked, and it cannot be stopped. There are moments in life when evil doesn't stay at a distance. It doesn't come with fire and fury from some far-off battlefield. It walks right into your living room. It shows up in conversations that unsettle your spirit. It hides in choices that look good on the outside but carry poison within. Or sometimes evil doesn't even knock. It enters quietly, cloaked in comfort, pretending to care, even pretending to love. And in those moments, you need more than casual faith. You need discernment that leads to deliverance. Discernment is not suspicion. It is not fear. It is the ability to see things as they truly are, not how they appear. It is a spiritual lens gifted by God to those who seek His wisdom. Or it tells you when a door looks open but leads to destruction. It warns you when a voice speaks kindly but carries deceit. It gives you a sense, a tug in your soul, that something isn't right, even when everything around you seems fine. And friend, when evil comes close, that gift becomes your first shield. But discernment alone is not enough. You must act on it. You must be bold enough to say, this is not from God. You must be brave enough to walk away from what the world calls acceptable, but the Spirit calls dangerous. That is the journey from discernment to deliverance. Deliverance is not just about dramatic moments or casting shadows from dark corners. Sometimes deliverance is quiet. It's personal. It's when God removes the weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. It's when He exposes the relationships, habits, and environments that were killing your spirit slowly. It's when you wake up and realize, I don't have to live under this anymore. But here's the hard truth. Some people see the warning signs and still stay. They hear the Spirit whisper, but they ignore it because the voice of fear is louder. Fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of losing something or someone that felt familiar. So they remain in places that God already told them to leave. They remain connected to people God already told them to release. And in doing so, they block the deliverance meant for them. You can't walk boldly in freedom if you're still entertaining what's holding you captive. You can't claim peace while dining with confusion. And you can't expect victory while keeping company with what's already declared war on your soul. There comes a moment when you have to decide, will I walk by sight or by faith? Will I trust what I see or what the Spirit reveals? When evil comes close, it doesn't always bring chaos. Sometimes it brings counterfeit peace, a false sense of security. It speaks in half-truths, manipulates with emotion, and dresses rebellion as freedom. That's why discernment is so crucial. Evil rarely walks in wearing a name tag. It hides, it blends, it adapts. But the Spirit of God reveals, He exposes. He pulls back the curtain so that you can see clearly. And once you do, you must choose to walk boldly toward deliverance. Walking boldly means you don't need all the answers before you move. You don't need everyone's approval before you obey. You just need one word from God. You just need one moment of clarity to say, enough. I will not bow to this spirit. I will not tolerate this bondage. I will not allow this fear to dictate my future. There is power in saying no. There is power in breaking agreement with the lies that have kept you bound. There is power in walking away from the very thing that once defined you, controlled you, or limited you. And when you walk away, God walks with you. You may leave the familiar, but you step into freedom. You may lose people, but you find peace. And you discover that deliverance is not just an event, it's a way of life. Every step you take in truth is a step away from darkness. Every time you declare the word over your situation, you are breaking chains. Every time you say yes to God and no to fear, you are walking in the authority He gave you. You don't have to shout. You don't have to fight with your fists. You fight with obedience. You fight with worship. You fight with the knowledge that the one in you is greater than anything trying to destroy you. And when evil comes close, you don't cower. You stand. You don't compromise. You resist. And the Bible tells us that when you resist the devil, he will flee. He doesn't flee because of your strength. He flees because of who backs you up. When you know who you belong to, when you know what was bought for you at the cross, you stop walking in fear and start walking in fire. A fire that burns away deception. A fire that refuses to be put out by manipulation. A fire that says, I will protect my soul even if it costs me comfort. I will guard my peace even if it means walking alone. I will follow Jesus even if the crowd goes another way. You are not born to live in bondage, but you are not created to live confused. You are not meant to merely survive under the weight of spiritual attack. You were made for freedom. You were chosen for clarity. And you were called to walk in boldness when evil dares to get close. So today, rise up. Don't settle for a life half-lived. Don't keep opening the door to what God already told you to close. Don't ignore the warning signs in the name of love or obligation. When evil comes near, let your spirit recognize it. Or let your mouth rebuke it. And let your life reflect a person who doesn't bow to darkness, but walks boldly in the light. Because deliverance is not just for Sunday morning, it's for your home, it's for your relationships, it's for your mind, your heart, your body, your soul. It is your inheritance. And when you walk in it, everything changes. You no longer fear what comes close. You stand firm in who you are. You are not a victim. You are not a prisoner. You are not a slave to the past. You are a child of the King, equipped with discernment and empowered for deliverance. And the one who brought you this far will not leave you now. He will lead you through the valley. He will show you the way out. And when you come out, you won't just be free. You'll be stronger, wiser, and ready to help someone else find their freedom too. So now is the moment to rise, not in fear, but in faith, to walk boldly, knowing that evil may come close, but it cannot claim you. You are covered, called, and chosen. Discern what is from God and what is not. Say no to what drains, distracts, and deceives. Say yes to truth, peace, and purpose. Let deliverance be not just something you seek, but something you live. Walk with the assurance that when you move in obedience, heaven moves with you. You are not alone, and nothing that stands against you can stand long, because God is your defender.